Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Encinitas City Council meeting. It's nice to see you all. It is Wednesday, August 24th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And this is the regular meeting of the Encinitas City Council. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Hinsey is absent. Councilmember Kranz?
Here.
Councilmember Lyons?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mosca?
Here.
And Mayor Blakespear.
Here.
Record will show all members are present with the exception of Councilmember Hinsey.
Okay, thank you. I invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no special presentations and proclamations today, so we will move straight into our oral communications. How many oral communications do we have?
Looks like we have 6.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
All right, everyone has 3 minutes to speak, and I will call you 3 at a time. Ellen Burr, Scott Campbell, and then Chandra Slavin.
No other announcements? Changes in the agenda? Okay. Good evening, Council. At one of your prior meetings, is this working? Yeah. There was something placed on the agenda that had to do with traffic and safety. I think it was an assembly bill that Tasha Burner-Horvath was presenting. And I was shocked that I saw that on there because it obviously had not gone to the Mobility and Safety Traffic Commission yet, and it should have. And its appearance on the agenda would make one believe that either whoever set the agenda had no knowledge of what they do, or else no respect for what they do, or for the staff that they have doing things for them. So please don't let that happen again. It's hard to get people to serve on these commissions, and if you're not going to listen to what they say or usurp their job, they aren't going to want to do it. But if you do want to get involved in this, I suggest you contact your people in Sacramento, your consultants, and see if there's anybody out there who is coming forth with a bill to deal with the mishigas that is vehicle and substance street, whatever vehicles go on, statutes and laws, because they are a mess. They are a PI attorney's gift. And it's not just e-bikes, but I would say that that is probably the one issue across this community that is united, is that something needs to be done. They're in the street, they're in their Sharrow lane, they're in their lane, they're in the pedestrian lane, they're on the rail trail, they're on the sidewalk, they're in all the divisions and medians between all of those, and in both directions, with the traffic against the traffic, and now they're even on the beach. So somebody up in Sacramento and locally in North County, San Diego, needs to get busy. My other issue is something that came up at last time Mr. Goodson was there, and I'm running out of time. He said that older people did not want to live just alone. They wanted to live with mixed communities. And I think if you had gone out, you would have seen someone, asked almost anyone, and they would have said, age in place is what they want to do, age in place. And this group has done everything in the past 2 years to make it way more difficult for people to do that, because you have nickel and dimed them to death with increase in fees for utilities, for services, and increase in permits. So please, please serve your constituents.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Campbell. I live in the Acadia District. First off, I'd like to thank Commissioner Tony for setting the bar. He rode his bicycle home from the meeting last week. I don't know if anybody else did, but we saw you. That was nice, very nice. It's too bad that 8K got pulled. I had a nice presentation, very much echoing the safety issues. I'm sure you're aware that Carlsbad declared an emergency today in the headline papers about e-bikes. Do those stations have helmets? Okay, anyways. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Acadia Streetscape. And we really want the roundabout, La Costa Avenue, the intersection of the two major thoroughfares, and it's severely lacking in the plans. So here's a little history, and this is right off of the website from the city. Going back to 2007, actually, I learned that today. Thank you, staff, for putting that on the items. Today, we have 0.36 out of 2 miles completed in, 15 years. That is a bad track record. That is terrible. It is actually terrible. Now, these plans are really nice. I've looked at them. And I mean, it goes down to the irrigation and the sprinklers and evapotranspiration. And yes, exactly. That's for you, Joy. Yes. But it does not talk 1 minute about the roundabouts. Uh-oh. Okay, this was the plan that was shown to us. Look at that beautiful roundabout. 2 lanes, lights, wide sidebacks. Nice. Enhanced mobility. This is what we have today. Weeds. Concrete edifice. Looks like a prison. I'm sorry, it's a really nice hotel, but it looks like a prison. And there's more development coming up. No plans to fix this intersection. It was better before. Before this was in, it was better. Going back to 2020, this council, everybody here approved this. 8 crossings, 12 connectors. These were above grade, or whatever the word is. Look at the bottom in bold. That was an important part. And we have nothing now. We have nothing. We had plans with all the stakeholders, SANDAG, Caltrans, NCTD, California Public Utilities Commission. All this was done. We have nothing for the cross connect. Nothing. Look at this beautiful picture of Grandview. It was high priority. Nothing. All these sites have beautiful plans and detailed cost estimates. We have nothing. What we do have is recurring costs. Because of the fencing and lack of action, this is just the most recent one. I don't know what the ongoing costs to maintain the fence is, but it's ridiculous. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Chandra Slavin, followed by Mark Wilcox, and then Mark Maville.
Good evening, Council. For the record, I, Chandra Slavin, am submitting my oral comments provided to the California Coastal Commission on August 10th regarding the emergency CDP for Beacons Beach. On July 13th, Carl Schwang stated in his Coastal Commission executive report that there would be no opposition to its issuance, and the city was determining when to reopen Beacons Beach. However, there were numerous factual inaccuracies. 1, opposition to the CDP had been reported. I submitted a letter to the Executive Director Ainsworth on June 22nd and Coastal Counsel Ms. Meyer on July 12th. 2, the closure occurred on May 2nd, but as of June 19th, the emergency CDP had not been submitted to coastal staff per email with Ms. Carney, neglecting the required 7-day submittal period. 3, coastal staff was not informed by the city that the beach had already been reopened on June 30th. 4, the beach was reopened to install monitoring equipment, structures, grading, and a cell repeater tower that began transmitting data before the emergency CDP was approved. 5, the city signed the application as the owner of Beacons Beach, although State Parks owns it. As a result, coastal staff has neglected their ministerial duties by relying on factual inaccuracies to approve the emergency CDP. We request that the emergency CDP be denied due to these factual inaccuracies and for the administrative fines to be levied. Furthermore, the city of Encinitas has circumvented CEQA by submitting piecemeal modified CDPs for Beacons Beach, denying public participation in the process. I quote, "CEQA forbids piecemeal review of significant environmental impacts of a project. Agencies cannot allow environmental conditions to become submerged by chopping a large project into many little ones, each with a minimal potential impact on the environment, which cumulatively may have disastrous consequences." And this came from the Banning Ranch Conservancy versus City of Newport Beach of 2012. I've already entered this into the report with the city clerk for the administrative record. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, City Council. Mark Wilcox here, father and grandfather and advocate for our teens who return to our schools this month and high school seniors as they venture off to college or other next step in their life journey. I received the city's updates regarding Measure H, and I noticed that the marijuana lottery tier list had been posted for retail marijuana stores in Encinitas. Nearly concurrently, schools and parents received the latest update from the 2021 Monitoring the Future survey conducted by scientists at the University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research and funded by the National Institutes of Health since 1988. The university's press release was titled "Marijuana and Hallucinogen Use at All-Time High Among Young Adults Ages 19 to 30 Years Old." Monitoring the Future surveys are an important measure of what marijuana and other drug use really looks like in California and the United States for this pivotal age group. The California Healthy Kids Surveys, or CHICS, in which our high school and middle schools participate every 2 years, collect similar information from 7th, 9th, and 11th grade students. While CHICS is useful to parents and high school districts, it does not really educate us about what drug use looks like in the long view for young adults. So their loved ones and policymakers who have been caught unaware in the past when drug use surges in adulthood with life-changing and sometimes deadly consequences. Marijuana use in the past month was reported by 29% of adults in 2021 compared to 21% 5 years ago and 17% 10 years ago. Daily marijuana use also significantly increased. 11% of young adults in 2021, which was a significant increase from 8% in 2016 and 6% in 2011. Regarding vaping, nicotine vaping in the past month tripled to 16% in 2017 when behavior was first recorded. And marijuana vaping has doubled from 6% in 2017 to 12% in 2021. With marijuana storefronts looming, now would be the perfect time to add a ban of flavored marijuana products to the ban of flavored tobacco products, both of which priority market is young adults. This would show your commitment to healthy Encinitas citizens. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mark Maville, followed by Peggy Walker, and then Dolores Welty.
Okay, here we go. Mark Maville, concerned citizen, pretty disgusted with the way that things are going on 101. I guess you're not getting it. I don't know. You're just putting your head in the sand and letting it happen. But obviously, the fentanyl use is killing kids. Tax revenue is a little more important, C Bluff and all that. No, your priorities are messed up. Not only that, the speed on 101, 80 miles an hour at least at night. And these cantinas that are allowed to stay open till 2:30 in the morning, that's when the problems start. 10:30 to 2:30, you got 12-year-old kids throwing up on the street, and they'll become alcoholics by the time they're 20. So I don't know how you can get your attention. Captain Lopez says it's improving from one year to the next, but the spike 2 Fridays ago, you guys didn't see that? The stabbings, the Molotov cocktails thrown in the alleyway, marking up the bathrooms down there. You know what gang it is. Keep them out. I don't know what to say on that part of it, but you've got to mandate and pull the liquor license for temporarily, maybe for a month. The tourists are gone, the kids are in school. This is the time. Make that D Street corner cantina, that is probably the worst, that's open till 2:30, into a museum. And allow La Paloma, not 13 grand a month, 8 grand, and he's not looking for a hand out, he's looking for a hand up. Let's make sure that trademark, that landmark is taken care of and allowed some kind of levity with the backing of the council. The church that goes in there on Sundays is willing to help out. And I don't know, and the transient or homeless thing, not criminal, stealing of bikes, raping, lewd behavior as somebody showed, clogging up the stream out here to have company contracted for 3 weeks to clean their mess up, the destruction of the bathrooms, and family parks being, threatened, that's criminal. And one way or another, got to scoop them out, take them out of here. There's no reason for them to be here. Money's here. Yeah, we've got the money here. That's not the glue here. And I don't know, I think that impeachment soon, or re-election, or elections come early, this is not conducive to what should be happening. This area deserves better, and you got to get a handle on it, and the sheriff are doing the best they can, but 10 units and that whole nightmare that happened, it looked like Watts down there. 700 kids because a drop of fentanyl came in that night. And I know, being kind of connected to it, I'm not a vigilante, I'm not a watchdog, I'm a concerned citizen for my daughter to maybe visit here soon, trying to run a business here. You know what? It's just not conducive for that. And
Thank you so much.
so the families have to be protected, the kids have to be protected.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Right, it's too much, right? Too much to handle?
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I belong to a group of public health educators and parents who track drug legislation. With marijuana stores in the city's near future, we wanted to let you know that even as marijuana use by youth hits an all-time high and adult daily use has tripled, the industry succeeded Monday in preventing public access to basic information about health risks of marijuana products. The landmark California Right to Know Act, Senate Bill 1097, authored by pediatrician and Senator Richard Pan, chair of the Senate Committee on Health, would have provided warnings on product labels addressing well-recognized risks, including psychosis, suicide attempts, severe vomiting, and car accidents. All have been exacerbated by the shift to unprecedentedly high TH content in marijuana products. The original SB 1097 passed the Senate and won approval of Assembly committees. Unfortunately, however, aggressive industry lobbying diluted the legislation just days before an Assembly floor vote, forcing withdrawal of the bill. This is yet another example of marijuana industry excessive influence over legislation. Despite public support and overwhelming scientific consensus for this bill, industry profits won out over public health. Research indicates marijuana information labels are proven effective and a good approach to educating the public at little or no cost to government or to consumers. Dr. Lori Winston, president of the California chapter of the American College of ER Physicians, expressed disappointment, stating that Californians will not now be provided the bare minimum of accurate information that they deserve. So we wanted to urge you, the city, to consider safe label requirements in the future, or at least require package information about the harms of these products. When you buy prescription drugs and pick them up, you always have an accompanying sheet that describes
the problems of drug interactions or side effects of the drugs. And it would be so nice if these accompanied marijuana products that are sold in our city. So I would just ask you to consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Dolores Welty in Acadia. Changes subject. I'm still a little bent out of shape about the Mariah development in that the vehicle miles traveled, the VMT, it exceeds the VMT, and I wrote you a letter about it. Most of this is just for public consumption. And I wondered if your rule about the allowed VMT is a serious rule or just sort of something you say. I wondered, too, if any city knows, or at least our own city, how many homeless we have that are actually in need of houses, how many homeless we have that could actually benefit from houses, and how many we need to really just get off the streets and put them in some kind of care and take care of them to see if they can, at some time, come back and be a profitable member of the society, helpful to themselves. I don't think we have any kind of statistics for that. I know that every development has a lot of infrastructure costs, and I wonder who pays for those, the lights, the hookups to electricity, water, sewer, etc. I wonder if we know what our average medium income is in the city of Encinitas, the AMI. What are the salaries of people getting here by category? And rentals. How much are renters being charged per square foot? That seems to be a kind of plumb line for whether a development is too expensive or not to be called low income or a rental. You know, upzoning is a gift. It's a gift of proposed future income. And to every benefit, to every profit, there is a cost. And when you upzone, the cost is to the local community. So what we want from all these upzoned places is an equal return for our gift of 33 and by right and the things this state is doing to us. I have a couple minutes. First of all, there's no requirement that the targets per income level are met under RHNA. That's right out of your letter. The only thing that counts is the total number of units permitted for construction, regardless of income, or whether those units are actually built. I know you keep a good control of it, and I thank you for that. Bye.
Thank you.
That does conclude oral communications.
Okay, thank you to the public today who came out to speak. We will move forward with our agenda now. Do we have our report from closed session? I'll ask our attorney.
Yes, Your Honor. City Council met in closed session. One case, initiation of litigation, Government Code 54956.9, subsections D4, and there was no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, we do. Item 8K was removed from the agenda by staff and will be placed on a future agenda. And then moving to the consent calendar, item 8A and 8F have been removed by the public.
Okay. Hold on a second. Okay, and I think we have a comment from Councilmember Lyons on 8. I. Would you like to go ahead and make your comment? I'm also going to comment on
Yes.
8I, and then we can move the balance of the consent after that.
Right, thank you. So 8I is the agreement with the Leavenham Municipal Water District for the cost sharing of the resurfacing of the Manchester Avenue and South El Camino Real project. And I just think that there's some really great things associated with this project that's just on our consent item that I want to profile for everyone. Yes, it's a cost sharing, which is really very cool because the city looks to have partners when we do our infrastructure work, and OMWD is coming forward on this one. But not only that, this is a reclaimed water line that we're really investing in installing and expanding our reclaimed system throughout our city, which will benefit our water consumption and reduce our consumption of potable water. So it's a real benefit to our community in this way. But not only that, we have multiple other benefits. We're not only installing a reclaimed water line, we are going to go ahead and do resurfacing of the road, Manchester and along into El Camino Real, and achieve restriping, which meets the intent of stated quick build request for traffic calming and continuity for our bike lanes. So just because all those great things were happening on one simple little project on our consent agenda, I just wanted to shine a light on it because it's exactly what we want to try to achieve when we do our infrastructure work here in Encinitas. So I'm very proud of us thinking about this in terms of achieving many goals at the same time. That's my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would also just like to comment on, we have received feedback about Manchester, and particularly, it's a very wide road with fast speeds, and it will be great to enhance the striping that we do on that road. But I just would like to encourage the staff and my colleagues to support in the future a barrier-protected bike lane on that road. There on this section of Manchester that goes to the east of the 5 freeway, there are very few driveways. So there's, of course, Miracosta, but then on the other side of the road, there's basically no driveway until Manchester turns to the right there. And so it's really a great place to do a project like that. It would be much more expensive, I think, than this project envisions, but thinking about pedestrian and bicycle safety along fast, wide roads, I think the barrier-protected bike lane is really critical to that. And so, ideally, these projects are coming to us directly from staff as proposals. I understand this is not the case right here, but I just wanted to put that out there. So, any other comments on this item? No? Okay. And then before we move the consent, I would also like to make one other comment about something that I'm really excited about. And I just wanted to confirm there are no public comments. No one has pulled 8O. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is the plans, specifications, and authorization to advertise Phase 2 of the South Coast Highway 101 Cycle Track Project. Now, I just want to highlight how great this project is. And I know we talked about this at the City Council, but it's on consent today. And this is a 2-way barrier-protected bike lane on the west side of Highway 101 that goes north from Chesterfield all the way to our downtown past Swami's. And we are putting city money of about $72,000 in, and we are receiving a $650,000 state grant. So city general fund money is very small, and the state grant is very large. And it also adds 50 parking spaces, and it has not only a barrier-protected bike lane that's going in both directions on the west side, but it has an unprotected bike lane for the sport cyclists who don't want to be trapped on both sides of the road. So it's really remarkable that there's this much space. I know some parts of that road are very, very wide, but it's a tremendous project that I'm so thrilled by. And I see Abe in the background, our traffic engineer. And I'm just really grateful that we have this in front of us and we're moving forward with it. And I'm thankful for all the work staff has done to get us here. And I think it'll be another great project along our coast here in the city of Encinitas, and I'm thrilled. So with that, I would entertain a motion on the balance of the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote, and then we'll get to the 2 items that the public pulled.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hinsey absent. That takes us to item 8A, and the speaker is Mark Maville.
8H, actually.
Which is it?
8H. Sorry, I can't read my writing. Has this been put out to bid, or is Eagle just the guy that you guys are wanting to put in there 1.8 million for slurry? You can't get a better bid than that? That's the question. I mean, that's a lot of money for slurry.
I think we
So-
just approved that because we had the confusion about which item it was,
Well,
so.
you can make your comments on this item.
I just think it's outrageous, but you
Yeah.
guys go ahead and just approve things all the time that are outrageous, but I mean, 1.8 million with a 314 up front? Come on now.
Have you seen
Take
the
a little
inventory
closer
of
look. No, I
streets?
don't need to see anything. You need to put it
Can we
out to
please get his
bid.
time going if he's doing his comments here? So let's just he can speak and then council can respond. If you'd like to go ahead with any more comments, go ahead.
That was it?
Okay.
Did you put it out to bid for
Okay.
3 or 4, maybe minority type? Oh, you did, and then you come up with 1.8.
All of it's out to bid.
Wow, okay. Enough said, that's it.
So just, thank you for your comments. Just a little bit of information for everybody about how our pavement program works. We allocate more than $3 million for pavement every year. And so we go out to bid to see how many roads in a long list of roads we can have slurry sealed, and then we do as many roads as we can. So, and we have a pavement quality index that rates every street, and the goal is to have our pavement quality not be falling and falling and falling, but to be going up incrementally a little bit every year. But it's always a resource allocation issue, because there are a lot of projects to spend the city's capital improvement budget on. So just that's that little bit of background about that item. But I think we need to, I will make a motion to approve 8A.
I actually don't want to approve 8A because I think we should have the city clerk read every single ordinance out loud. No joking. I'll second that.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
You have to stay here to listen.
I mean, streetscape is not enough rebar. You're gonna have correction cracks in 5 years, and by the time you're gone, 10 years, it's gonna have to be redone, so I watched it.
That motion carried unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent. That takes us to item 8F.
Okay, is there a public speaker who pulled
We have
this?
two public speakers, Dolores Welty, followed by Kevin Doyle.
I'm Dolores Welty. I'm just concerned about the parking on the west side. This 8F is also going to deal with parking, according to what I read in your agenda.
Okay, thank you, Dolores. We'll take the second comment, and then we can ask staff to address any concerns that were raised. Hello, Planning Commissioner.
Hello, how are you?
Chair.
This is my first time at the new podium, but thank you for tonight. Just for the record, I'm very supportive of everything that's going on. I love my underpass, I love my roundabout. I'm thinking of changing my name to Don Quixote because I'm going to make one last attempt to try and save a tree. No, I'm not. It's not my last. I'll try and save every tree. But we have a grove of mature eucalyptus, or not even mature, they're young adults. They were part of the 101 trees on 101 planted, God, how many decades ago now. But on the northeast side of 101, as you drive up, you come to La Costa, and a whole bunch of trees growing on the side there. Sorry I didn't do this out, but you've all driven by them, and if you're a bike rider going north, you've stopped underneath them. It's a convenient place to stop and chill out. But there's a bus stop that's going there, and I think it's a bus stop and a DG path is going to wrap around it, and that one tree is slated for removal. And it looks to me, when I look at the plans, I think they're on page 25, 26 of the staff report, that the bus kiosk could conceivably shove itself over about 8 feet, and we could preserve that tree. Because right now, there's about 12 or 13 trees. They're all lined up right along the tracks. They're kind of in from the drop-off, and we have a wide dirt berm just as we come up to La Costa. So I've sent a letter to Jill Bankston, and I just want to put it on your radar. If possible, I'd like you to direct staff to see if they can do what they can. Because, I mean, Tony, you put up this thing, let's save our mature trees. And they're so beautiful clustered together. It's the last bits of a true canopy. And if we take this one tree out of the middle, it's going to leave it'll look like a missing tooth. And that was it. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for all you do. And
Well, thank you for all you do on the Planning Commission as the chair, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'll call on my council colleague, Councilmember Krantz.
Thank you. And I appreciate Kevin's advocacy for the trees. And I would hope that every tree slated for removal, there is a reason for it to be designated for removal. So I know that when we did the first segment of Streetscape, there were after-the-fact efforts to save more trees, and I don't doubt that for every tree in the north segment that there will be that continued effort. So doubling down and making sure that there is a legitimate reason. If indeed it is about a bus bench, I would just be shocked if it couldn't be moved, one way or the other to be between those trees. So I, like Kevin has asked, hope that you will look at that and see if there's a chance of saving it. The other thing, as long as this is being discussed, I would like to point out to Scott that every one of us wanted that roundabout at La Costa Avenue. The problem was that the resort hotel had entitlements that were 30 years old. And the roundabout, to put in the roundabout, would have required substantial changes to those plans, and the Coastal Commission wouldn't allow it to be done without going through the entitlement process all over again. So the owner of the entitlements decided that as much as he wanted a roundabout there as well, it wasn't going to be worth running the risk of having the entitlements tangled up in Coastal Commission mitigation requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So the roundabout there went away. But very excited about this item. I would hope that there were, I don't know how we could add some additional items for bidding, but one of the things that is desperately needed is a concrete pad for the bus stop that's at Acadia Boulevard and 101 northbound. So I had asked earlier that be an additive alternative. I have no idea what that would cost. It's possible that it should be bid separately because maybe it's not as big a deal and it could be put in quicker if it just got done. But that bus stop tends to flood, and so anything we could do to make it more comfortable for bus riders there, I think would benefit not only our community, but also NCTD. So that would be my only request. Meanwhile, I would move approval of this item.
Okay, I'll second it. I'd like to just ask staff to address the question about the parking spaces on the west side, if you happen to know.
Yeah, so we're converting some of the parallel spaces to reverse angle parking, similar to what we did in the first phase. So we will be adding additional parking spaces. This project will also add ADA spaces on the west side of the 101, which don't currently exist. So it'll be an overall improvement to the parking in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any way to rebut the tree issue? Or?
Would you like to address the tree? No, not you, the staff. Jill. Jill's the project lead. Let's.
Yes.
Okay, let's yeah, go ahead.
We've looked carefully at each and every tree. We went to the Urban Forestry Committee with our plan for trees to plant new trees and the trees that needed to be removed. I did see Kevin's email, and we will certainly take another look and see if there are things that we can modify. And again, once we're out in construction, if we see opportunities to save trees, we always want to save the trees if we can.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just second my council colleague. I'm sure we all agree that if there's a possibility of saving that tree and not having the missing tooth, and also we're never replanting eucalyptus these days. So I really love the eucalyptus personally. I know they create strong opinions, but it would be great to be able to save them. Sir, it's not your time to talk now, so the public has the opportunity to come up here and talk, and then we need to do the rest of the business of the meeting. So I appreciate your consideration. So thank you very much for this information, Jill, and let's go ahead and vote on this item.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hinsey absent.
Okay, thank you. So now we are on to our agenda item, action item 10A. And I will, would the city attorney like to say anything about this item at this point, or?
No, I have no statement at this point, Your Honor.
Okay. So the procedures for the appeal are we have a staff report given, and then we ask council to disclose any other information they have received that is not included in the staff report. And then we open the public hearing, and the appellant goes first with 10 minutes, and the applicant goes next with 10 minutes. So in this case, we only have one. The appellant is the applicant. So we have, is that right?
No. The appellant is Matthew Gordon, and the applicant is Scripps Institute.
Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead with our staff report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you indicated, this is the Beacons Beach Bluff Monitoring Plan appeal. Public hearing is to consider an appeal filed by Matthew Gordon for the project located at 948 Neptune Avenue, which includes basically a major use permit and coastal development permit, a request to authorize the installation of at-grade and below-grade monitoring equipment on the top portion of the bluff, on the bluff face, and in the parking lot. To basically help monitor the current landslide area located at Beacons Beach. There are both temporary measuring devices and permanent long-term measuring devices proposed at this time. And this is the location shown highlighted here. Sorry. The subject lot is zoned residential 11 and the ERO PK zone, which is the Ecological Resource Open Space Park Zone. It's in the Coastal Bluff overlay and within the California Coastal Commission's appeal jurisdiction. I think everyone's familiar where Beacons is. This just shows the zoning context. It's a split zone as indicated. You can kind of see the brown indicates the R11 residential zone, and then the green basically shows that open space park zone. And this just shows the condition kind of I guess post landslide, so after it being open, but this was essentially the condition after May 1. And so just kind of going through some of the background on May 1st, basically there was a bluff failure there on the north end of the beach. And basically on May 2nd, staff contacted the Coastal Commission to pursue an emergency coastal development permit for the immediate and temporary closure of the Beacons Beach Bluff and public access trail. That included, we installed temporary fencing at the top of the bluff and at the beach to prevent the public from entering any of the failure area, closure to the public parking lot, and placement of temporary sensors and equipment for bluff stability monitoring. Closure and placement of the sensors occurred on May 2nd, and then the Coastal Commission actually issued the emergency permit that we filed on June 29th. The city basically repaired the existing public access trail at the Beacons Beach on June 20th, 2022, and those improvements occurred over a few days. The scope of the work was exempt from CDP pursuant to Section 3080.050C, which basically states repair and maintenance activities to the existing structures or facilities that do not result in an addition to or enlargement or expansion of, or basically exempt from emergency coastal development permit or a regular coastal permit. So that's hence why the work was done. And then on June 29th, the Planning Commission reviewed essentially this scope of work that we're looking at here and approved that. And so the permit itself is a major use permit. It includes, and a coastal permit, includes basically the installation of various electrical conduits and sensors located in trenches within the parking lot, flexible electrical conduits on the face of the bluff, an instrument mast with footing on the back of the bluff edge, deep and shallow boreholes, sensors to be in casing in the parking lot, shallow monitoring points over the bluff face and along the beach trail, and then other minor structures such as antennas. There'll be a temporary staging temporary staging in the parking lot itself. And this just kind of shows essentially the temporary emergency plan that was approved by Coastal, showing how we had fenced it off during that period of time, and the temporary devices that got placed in here. The various sensor nodes, as well as the seismometers, and then the temporary fencing that was all done under the emergency permit. And then this is essentially the staging area for the new construction. And then looking at essentially what was put in, as far as there'll be a monitoring aspect of it as well. So there is these temporary devices, as you can see, the inclinometers that basically measure back wirelessly to deal with any kind of seismic activity. So, let's see, other than that, we did have a geotechnical report done, and our staff here, Jim Knowlton, has reviewed it and found it to be adequate. And let's see, getting into the appeal. So Matt Gordon had filed a timely appeal, and there were kind of 7 main points that he discussed. The first was dealing with the unpermitted soils disturbance on the coastal bluff and closure of the beach, incorrect filing date shown on the notice. He'd indicated a member of the public was denied due process as a planning commission. Various grading associated with the work was needed a permit, incomplete project description for the state parks permit, incomplete public record for grant allocation, inconsistent and hazardous action taken by the city with relation to the emergency CDP. So related to the first point, dealing with the unpermitted soils, basically as indicated before, the bluff failed on May 1st, and on May 2nd, we went right out to the Coastal Commission to indicate the emergency permit, and that is consistent with the Public Resources Code Section 3611 for basically the immediate and temporary closure of Beacons Beach Bluff and the public access trail, which include all the installation of the temporary fencing, and then the closure of the beach, which also included the temporary sensing devices as well. And then essentially on June 29th, they issued that permit. So it was done in accordance with those provisions. City obviously proceeded to repair that on June 20th once it was deemed it did not need a coastal permit or needed to be a part of the emergency permit. So that was done in accordance with those rules. The date on the notice, there was a typo, I believe, on the notice itself, but basically the legal notice issued for the project met the standard requirements noted in section 30.01.070, the notice for public hearings. And while the applicant filing date was incorrect, the legal notice had the hearing, the date, the time, and the location was accurate, consistent with that section. Dealing with the third. So a member of the public was denied due process at the Planning Commission. This was a Zoom meeting, and basically everyone was given the opportunity to speak. There was no evidence stated otherwise. Staff received no emails after the meeting stating that there was any issue not being able to participate. The fourth point was dealing with the grading associated with the work and the permit associated with that. And then on June 20th, 2022, the city initiated repairs of the existing public access trail to Beacon's access point after the landslide was determined to be stable by GeoPacifica, our third-party consultant. And once again, the work was exempt from the emergency coastal permit. The fifth item was dealing with the state parks permit. Basically, the city has the permitting authority for the proposed scope of work. The state permit for scientific research and collections is a separate action, not a part of the local permitting process. So the state parks and recreation is aware of the proposed scope of work within the major use permit and coastal permit, and has given the authorization for this work. There was a comment related to the incomplete public records based on the grant that's being provided for the scope of work. And details of the grant and the selection process is not required of the CDP or the MUP application, and therefore is not relevant to the findings to approve the MUP or CDP. And then the seventh point was inconsistent and hazardous action taken by the city with relation to the emergency permit. The scope of work includes the installation of permanent monitoring equipment on the bluff face to measure seismic activity at Beacons Beach. The goal of the project is to monitor the landslide condition that exists at the surface level and subsurface level. The collection data will inform future efforts to provide and maintain pedestrian access to Beacons Beach. GeoPacifica, our third-party consultant, has determined that the landslide has stabilized and recommended that the existing public access and parking lot area be reopened to the public. And so the proposed project is consistent with the general plan, local coastal plan, and the municipal code. The project, as it was conditioned and approved by the Planning Commission, would not have any significant effect on the environment. Staff's recommending that the City Council adopt Resolution 2022-83 denying the appeal and basically affirming the Planning Commission's approval of the major use permit and coastal permit. And we're available for questions as well as I believe the applicant's here.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to ask council to disclose any other information they've received that is not included in the staff report.
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
I did meet with the applicants or the applicant, but I didn't receive any information that's not already contained in the record.
And I have nothing to disclose. So if the appellant, Matthew Gordon, is present, could he please present himself here at the podium? I do not see him or a designated agent. Would we like to make sure that there are no efforts to call in?
I'll ask you, I just asked Kieran in IT.
Okay.
He resent
Okay, he
call-in
just
information at 6:30.
he just popped his head around the door and said there's nothing. Okay. Okay, so it appears that we don't have an appellant who's presenting tonight. So the applicant, I'm going to open the public hearing. The applicant could, UCSD Scripps Institute of Oceanography could present if you want to, or you don't need to. It's totally up to you. And we'll just move forward with the decision.
I don't have anything to present. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I don't personally have any questions. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? And we will see if there are public speakers.
I do have a question. The work that's being done, what risk does it present for damage to the bluff, additional slides, et cetera? The drilling, whatever the trenching, those sort of things, is it, what level of risk does it increase?
So we've had AECOM as well as your geotechnical engineer, Jim Knowlton, has reviewed our plan and doesn't see any problem with it.
Okay.
I'll also note there's already a few boreholes in the area that didn't cause any problems.
Okay, and I think that the other key part of this trail is that it is one that people use at their risk because it's pretty well known as being, a slide area, and therefore using the trail it is risky. So that's, I think, an important part of what we're dealing with here.
And sir, could you just state your name and title for the record?
Adam Young, a researcher at Scripps Institution of Oceanography.
Okay, thank you. You were answering the question to Councilmember Kranz. And Councilmember Lyons?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Is this a type of procedure that Scripps has been involved in the past?
Frank over here has done similar work with these types of sensors before, yeah. Not at Beacons, but in other locations, yeah.
Other locations, all right. I appreciate that. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So do we have public speakers on
We
this?
have no public speakers.
Okay. So would you like to do a rebuttal? No? Okay, I just want to offer it. So there is no applicant to do the rebuttal, so there's a possible rebuttal by the appellant. And unless we have any other comments or questions, I will officially close the public hearing. Councilmember Kranz looks like he wants to make a motion.
Well, I do actually have one more question for staff. To clarify, the city of Encinitas' MOU gives the city agency to take the actions that we took. One of the appeal points was that we are not the owners and therefore didn't have the right. It was mentioned at oral communications tonight as well. Can you speak to that?
That's correct. We have the authority. We've actually worked through that with state parks as well. But yes, we have the long-term lease essentially with it and work directly with state parks to make sure that we're consistent with that.
And our notice to the Coastal Commission was essentially immediate and telephonic, I guess. Do we have acknowledgement from Coastal Commission that we were okay to proceed with the things that we were undertaking?
Correct, yes.
Okay, yes, I would move denial of the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission's determination.
Okay, I will second that. Councilmember Lyons, do you have another question?
Yeah, I do. And I just wanted to, I think, shine a light on something else too, and it's along the same lines as Councilmember Kranz. I have, it's my opinion that the appellant, many of the concerns come from the fact that it was an emergency permit. And an emergency permit is a very different type of permit than a standard permit. And it doesn't fit into the tidy little box that a standard permit fits into. With an emergency permit, we do have then, we're given the authority to move forward with the decisions we made in the time frame we made them in an appropriate way. And I just want to get some confirmation. It seems like that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for your question answering, and we'll go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay.
Thank you for everything you guys are doing. Thank you for the data collection.
Okay, so now we're on to item 10B, which is related to ADUs. So it's a public hearing to consider the introduction of an ordinance to adopt modifications approved by the Coastal Commission, which amended the zoning code to modify the regulations and requirements for accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units. So I will go ahead and hand it over to staff to take this. Could you please remind me how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, it's Jednak.
Jednak, okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Associate Planner Jednak.
Absolutely. Okay, good evening, City Council. I'm Evan Jednak, Project Planner for item 10B, the Coastal Commission modifications to the ADU ordinance. There's no slideshow tonight, just a quick presentation. So a little background, on February 9th, the council adopted ordinance 22-03 to accept previous Coastal Commission modifications regarding non-conforming conditions and setbacks. And then on July 13th, the Coastal Commission reviewed ordinance 22-03 and approved it with one additional modification, which addresses when a coastal development permit or CDP is required for new ADUs. Tonight's ordinance 22-11 is being introduced and includes the CDP modification. So the modification requires a CDP for new ADUs that are not completely contained in an existing structure or include conversion of non-habitable space. So if approved, the second reading of the ordinance will be September 14th. And if adopted, city staff will submit the accepted modifications back to the Coastal Commission for their determination of consistency. And this concludes staff presentation, and we're available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Let me just ask if we have public comments.
We do not.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Consistent with our approach here and the state's approach in encouraging the development of ADUs and junior ADUs, now that certain parts of our city to develop a junior ADU or ADU, we would have to go through the CDP process or an applicant would have to. Do we have flexibility in the process to go through the CDP and to ensure that it's as smooth and as quick as possible, so that it's not labor intensive and actually working against what we want, which are potentially more ADUs to help folks that don't have housing in our city and in the region?
Yes, our staff is working on a checklist format for a ministerial CDP process to simplify it. So then we can check to make sure that there's any coastal resources or not. And if there are coastal resources, that's when we need to do further research and get additional studies to be able to issue the coastal development permit.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I would just encourage us to try to expedite it and to make it as smooth and painless as possible, so that we're actually encouraging people to go the route of an ADU, a junior ADU, especially if it's something that's relevant and helpful for their situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kranz.
Yes, and along those lines, I would hope that we might consider the possibility of waiving fees for something like this. So maybe someday we can bring that idea back, especially if it's an expedited CDP. I know that's a big chunk in fees, and perhaps it's a way to incentivize deed restrictions or whatever as part of the whole process. So my hope is that we can, as Deputy Mayor Mosca pointed out, continue to use the ADU, the potential for ADUs as an incentive to deal with some of the affordable housing issues and RENA requirements.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, so I'm along the same lines, but I'm looking for a little bit different answer, I think. I understand that you're saying a different process, different ministerial process, and a checklist. When I hear that, I think actually a shortened time frame, and I'm wondering if that's part of what you're proposing. Checklist, does that imply a shorter process? Could you shed a little more light on that?
Sure. So with ADUs, we do have additional restrictions for issuing the building permit. And so we're going to try to stay within that 60-day time frame to issue the building permit for ADUs along with the CDPs. So in most cases, the ADU CDP should be simple in the sense that we're checking off the box and saying, okay, there's no coastal impacts, versus the more in-depth projects that may be on the bluff or something like that. Those types of projects would be more in-depth because we want to make sure that there's no impacts to the bluffs, and so we're going to need additional studies. So most ADUs won't have that, and so we just need to make sure that we are meeting our state guidelines and then also meeting the state guidelines for ADU building permits.
Councilmember Lyons, is that all you, or?
Yeah, unless there's something else to be added.
Oh, Roy was just reminding me that if it's within the existing house, then it doesn't require a CDP, so because the structure is already there. And so it's those types of conversions. When we're adding units and things like that, those are less impactful for converting space. But it's when we're building a whole new structure close to a bluff or within a public view or near a stream, things like that.
All right, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, and I just wanted to top off my colleagues' questions. The gist of all of them gets to the point that we've been really focused on trying to make the process of dealing with the city when it comes to doing development projects that are small or large, to be clear and straightforward and easily understandable and processed in a timely manner. And I know we talked about this extensively at the budget time too, when we were authorizing hiring more people. So just obviously adding a CDP to a process doesn't seem like it's going to cut red tape or make things simpler. So it's really incumbent upon staff to be thinking creatively about how we can make that happen, because the last thing we want is to have a different planner involved in the process, or to add the events are happening sequentially instead of concurrently. So I really want to emphasize, as I think all my colleagues have, that as a top priority that we improve in this area. And so this this item certainly could lead to more delays, and we really want it to be clear that we don't want that to happen.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we appreciate the feedback, and that is our goal and objective right now, is to streamline the process as best we can. The one good thing that's going to come out of this is the development of this streamlined CDP process. So that doesn't exist today, and going through this process, we will identify that streamlined process, and our objective moving forward is to have a conversation with Coastal Commission that potentially that we could extend that same streamlined process to other projects. So our goal is to leverage this opportunity to streamline other permits, not just ADUs, so CDPs for other projects as well. So.
Okay, great. Councilmember Krantz.
Quick question, do other jurisdictions have the streamlined process, or are we inventing this wheel?
We're inventing the checklist wheel. I have asked about that, but I do want to clarify as well, ADUs have to be a ministerial process. So the CDP will also be a ministerial process. It's not a planning commission review, so it is concurrent with the building permit review.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So I would entertain a motion on this.
Mayor Blakespear will just note that the public hearing was opened and closed because there were no public speakers.
Perfect. The public hearing was opened and closed. There were no public speakers. Thank you.
I would move approval.
Second.
Great. Let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is 12A, a council member initiated item from Councilmember Lyons, and I will hand it over to you, Councilmember.
Thank you. Bear with me here. So this council member initiated item is brought forward from this last round of community grants, where a member of the public came forward to suggest we consider adding equity to our community grant discussion and evaluation criteria. And so what this is just as a reminder, our community grants is something we do every year. We have a specific process. It begins in the spring, and then by the summertime we make the selection. The candidates fill out an application form, and so our application form right now does not say anything about equity, to address that. So this council member initiated item would recommend that we modify our application process to add discussion of equity if that's relevant to what the candidate is filling out for their grant request. And then when the grants are submitted, they're reviewed by representatives from each of the commissions and put forward to us for final selection. It's a very, very popular program. Over 50, 60 applicants are funded each year, and it was recommended that we consider, since we have focused a lot more on equity in our community, to consider asking the candidates who are filling out the forms if their applications have a component that addresses equity.
Well, thank you. I support this. It seems like a great idea to be explicit about it, and I know we will have applicants in that category or that have a portion of that category. They already do, but we just haven't been calling it out specifically. So I think that's a great idea. And this is something that could have come from the Equity Committee as a recommendation, but it didn't. Mm-hmm. So do we have any public comment?
No, we do not.
I'll get to you. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I support this as well, and I feel like it's already part of the discussion. And I feel like those are our values, and that as the folks that are kind of doing the first initial review of the applications, that they're looking for things that are complementary to our values, such as furthering equity. And certainly when I'm looking at, we have $1,000 or $2,000 left over. whatever it is. I'm certainly looking at through the lens of equity. So I think that it's a good thing that we actually call it out as one of the ways that we should look at some of these applications. So I agree with that.
Great. So Councilmember Lyons, was that a motion?
Sure, I'll move to approve.
Okay, and I'll second.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay, thank you. And then the next item is item 12B, which is another council-initiated item from Councilmember Lyons and me regarding action for spent fuel solutions now, resolution supporting solutions for the permanent relocation of spent nuclear fuel from our coastline to a federally licensed facility. Would you like to say something about this first?
I will. Thank you. I'll tee it up, and then I know you'd like to also speak on it. This is a request to join our colleagues, our other municipalities throughout the state in our city's participation in the Action for Spent Fuel Solutions Now. They are a group of, as I said, other municipalities who have demonstrated their support for solutions for the permanent relocation of spent nuclear fuel from our coastline to a federally licensed facility. And it also specifically requests that the Encinitas city manager, to draft a letter for the mayor's signature to the United States Secretary of Energy, urging the prompt removal and relocation of spent nuclear fuel currently stored in the decommissioned San Onofre generating station. And I just want to state that this aligns with our legislative priorities associated with coastal protection and enhancement. And then I'll hand it over to Mayor Blakespear for additional comment.
Well, thank you. So this is something we talked about extensively and had public speakers on a while back. And I think what we're trying to do is just formalize some of to be on the record in certain ways. And Councilmember Lyons and I were at a League of California Cities luncheon where there was an extensive presentation about this topic of San Onofre, and they put up this chart of all the cities that were a member, and we weren't on there, and it was nearly every other city. And so it showed the fact that we hadn't quite taken that final step yet, despite having discussed taking that step at that last meeting. So this was an effort to make this more formal and then sending the letter as well so that we're on the record about it. I think it's important. And so I appreciate Councilmember Lyons coming up with the idea that we should act on this right away. So I think, any of you have any comments? Yes, Deputy Mayor Muska.
Yes, I support, I appreciate Councilmember Lyons and the mayor bringing this action item to us, and I support this letter and going on record as saying that the city of Encinitas wants the fast removal of spent nuclear fuel from our coast, the safe storage of it somewhere in our country other than on our coast, which is in a very sensitive area. I've been actually participating in part of this discussion. Congressman Mike Levin has done an amazing job at bringing people together to look at the issue and to come up with some solutions. In fact, he's presented his colleagues in the United States Congress with several different pieces of legislation to actually safely remove and transport the spent fuel and find a home for it. Because believe it or not, there are actually multiple sites throughout the United States that have spent fuel in a temporary storage, which is not safe. And there was a deal years ago for Nevada to take some of the spent fuel, but then when that deal went south, the United States has never identified another site for the safe storage of the spent fuel. And so Congressman Levin has been working hard on this, and so I support this letter and I support his efforts to move this spent nuclear fuel.
Okay, great. And do we have any public comments on this?
No, we do not.
Okay, so I think Councilmember Lyons made a motion, and I think I seconded. Did
I
that
will
happen?
move to,
Okay.
approve. Yeah.
Motion does carry unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Thank you.
Okay. We're flying. So, council member reports. Pursuant to AB 1234, Councilmember Krantz.
Nothing to report.
I'll just report, and Deputy Mayor Mosca may want to add in here with his knowledge, but as far as our joint powers meeting, Santa Fe Irrigation District and San Dieguito Water District, I just wanted to report that they're reporting to us on what's being discovered as the team is investigating Hodges Dam and the existing condition of Hodges Dam, which is being looked at right now to assess what kind of repairs are needed to hold it over until a new dam will be built. So this, of course, anytime you talk about building a structure as large as a dam, it will take a decade or more, a decade if we're lucky, more for sure, to build the new dam. So the existing 100-year-old dam that we just celebrated is in the process of being evaluated for repairs right now. And Deputy Mayor Mosca, did you have something additional on?
No, I think that, well, a couple of things. I think that what you just said is good. The only thing I would add is so our general manager of our San Dieguito Water District at our last meeting said that they actually formed a technical committee together with San Dieguito and Santa Fe Irrigation District and City of San Diego County Water Authority, and so that they're going to be involved in the process from kind of a technical aspect, understanding what's going on. And I think that is important because as we're seeing with this first phase, that they thought that the first kind of fixes were going to cost maybe a couple of $1 million. Now we're looking at cost of over $10 million. And so I think that it's important for our folks to be at the table to ensure that we understand what's going on and that we have some clarity in terms of what the problem is, what the interim solutions are going to be, and what the cost is going to be. So that we can kind of nail that down. So I think that just like you said, we sit on a joint committee, a joint facilities committee with Santa Fe Irrigation District, so we have that information. But I think the important thing, again, that came out of that is that our water districts will form a technical committee with City of San Diego and County Water Authority so that they're in there, in the room as the decisions are being made.
It's a good way of putting it. Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't have anything to report technically under 1234, but I did want to say thank you to all my council colleagues and publicly thank the city staff for the celebration of Trail 95, which is the trail along El Camino del Norte. I thought it was an excellent way to celebrate that trail, which is just another trail that's going to close the gap in our trail system in Encinitas and allow people to really enjoy the trails that we have, not only with their horses, walking, jogging, riding their bikes, but also allowing our kids to get to school in the morning. And there's a lot of kids that are walking to school in the morning and riding their bikes. Also allowing residents to be able to have choices other than driving in their car. They can now safely walk down to the store or safely walk their kids to school in the morning or in the afternoon. So this is a real improvement and definitely an increase in quality of life for the city. Thank you.
And I would add that it was a very unique ceremony. It's the first ribbon cutting ceremony where I've had a horse breathing down my neck. But it was a lot of fun. It was great to have them there because I know how important all of these trails in Levine are for the rural part of our community, the horsemen and women. So it was great. Thank you for bringing it up.
It was great, and it was another great project in the city of Encinitas where we're improving residents' quality of life and making it easier to bike and walk and ride your horse and walk your kids to school. So I'm really grateful to the staff for making it happen and want to say thank you for that. And as you said, to all the colleagues who voted for the projects to fund it and build it. So any city manager report?
None. Thank you.
City attorney report?
Briefly, Your Honor. I just wanted to let the City Council know that the governor has signed Senate Bill 1100. What Senate Bill 1100 does is it amends the Brown Act to affirmatively allow the presiding officer of a meeting to remove someone who disrupts the meeting. Previous to this, there had been no affirmative statement of the Brown Act that allowed this, although various city councils' rules of order would allow this. And that's been upheld in state and federal court. However, this is an amendment to the Brown Act to affirmatively allow that under SB 1100. The presiding officer would first, if someone is disrupting the meeting, would first have to warn the offender. If they repeat the conduct, they will be removed. If they repeat the conduct, they can be removed, unless it actually constituted a physical use of force or a culpable threat of force, in which case that person can be removed immediately.
Well, that's great to know. I read about it too, and I'm glad that you summarized it for us, so we're all on notice. Thank you for sharing.
Although we don't need amendment of the Brown Act to say if somebody physically is presenting harm to us physically, I'm sure the sheriffs here already know the law and probably would assist whether it's a Brown Act violation or not, right?
Correct. I mean, someone can always be removed from the meeting for disrupting a meeting. This just formalizes the procedure under the Brown Act.
Well, thank you. City Clerk report.
As you know, the nomination period for our candidates did officially close with all the extensions last week. So we did receive the alphabet from the Secretary of State. So if people are interested in the official list of candidates, they can go to the City of Encinitas website on the municipal elections page. All the candidates are listed, and they are all in ballot order.
Okay, and do we have any commission, is it still open for applications?
No, all the commission applications deadlines have closed, and then right now I'm just verifying voter registration, and then I'll forward that list to the mayor for her recommendations.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
There's been some media reports about the Air Resources Board and the Regional Transportation Plan. Is there anything that you might be able to share about that situation, or?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So at Sandag, we have a regional plan, and this is very similar to our RENA process, where we have a housing plan that we put together and we submit to a state agency for approval. And so as part of adopting the plan, we also gave direction for the staff to evaluate removal of the road usage charge. And so the road usage charge helps the plan by providing a revenue stream. It also will result in fewer trips, which will result in a reduction in emissions. So removing what's called the RUC, the road user charge, will have an effect on the plan as a whole, and it's not possible to just remove that one thing without everything else moving. So the Air Resources Board received a letter from several members of the Sandag Board who did not approve of the plan and wanted the road user charge removed immediately, and said that there really wasn't good faith on the board's part in both passing a plan and then at the same time saying they wanted this road user charge removed. And so the Air Resources Board spent some considerable time evaluating this letter and communicating with the Sandag staff about the situation. And from my perspective, this is very similar to RENA, where when a board votes and there's a majority that says this is the plan we approve, and you send it to the state agency, that's the plan that they evaluate. And so they have evaluated it, and we are hopeful that it will be formalized, the answer that this plan is approved. And then just like RENA, we go forward to the next plan and we amend it and while remaining compliant. So as the chair of Sandag, I remain committed to being compliant with the Air Resources Board regulations, with or without the road usage charge. And it was, the road usage charge is and was very controversial. And interestingly, it's just moving forward now in the city of Manhattan to have a road usage charge where it would cost at least $23 to get into the city of Manhattan. And there are various exemptions in this and that. But basically, the road usage charge in Sandag's plan was always speculative into the future. So it never was a current plan to have that be something that was implemented. But there has been a bit of media and hubbub about it, in part because of the letter from a minority of the board that was making an effort to subvert what Sandag was trying to do, which was to be compliant with the law. And if you recall, Sandag received an extension of 1.5 years to have a regional plan that was compliant, and that's when we came up with the 5 big moves and the investments in transit and all these different things. So that's a summary of the situation. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Any questions or statements? No. Okay, well then with that, we are adjourned, 7:25. I hope you have a good evening, everybody.